afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Our next panel, as you can see, is the Innovative Showroom discussion that is preceding the Innovative Showroom Award. So thank you all for attending. We have a host today, Michael Donaghy, who's the National Director of Showrooms for Lixil Brands. Lixil is our sponsor of the Innovative Showroom Awards and a brand who truly appreciates their showroom partners. And we're so pleased that they worked with us on this and have sponsored the Innovative Showroom Awards again for the second year in a row. Michael, I'd like to invite you to the stage and your esteemed group of panelists.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll wait for the panel to come up.
Good afternoon.
Well, hey, Joe. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hi, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, everyone. Thank you, and welcome to the 4th Annual Innovative Panel Discussion and Showroom Award. Before we get started, what I'd like to really do is ask everyone for a round of applause for the KBIS team that put this show together for us today. I've been coming to 20 different KBISs over my life, and this so far is kicking off to be one of the best ones ever. So congratulations to the KBIS team, and thank you very, very much. And as mentioned in the introduction, my name is Mike Donaghy. I'm the National Director of Showrooms for Lixil Americas, which is a division of Lixil Global, which is one of the largest, or Lixil Corporation, which is one of the largest global building and manufacturing companies in the world. So really proud, once again, to sponsor this show. And so let's get started. To my right, we have Joe Bauer.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Baer from Zen Genius in Columbus, Ohio.
Great, thank you, Joe. And then we have Kate Bailey, Director of Showrooms with Ferguson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kate Bailey, Director of Showrooms for Ferguson Bath Kitchen Lighting Galleries.
And Kim Bernard.
Good afternoon. I'm Kim Bernard from Walker Zanger and last year's winner of the Innovative Showroom Award.
Gary Hartz is here with us today.
I'm Gary Hartz. I'm with myself. I'm an independent designer, Kitchens for Cooks, and last year's Innovative Showroom Design Small Showroom Independent.
Congratulations and welcome back. And then finally, we have Ken Nish.
Hello, I'm Ken Nish. I'm chairman of JGA, and we're a retail experience design group.
All right, great. Thank you. So we can grab a seat and get right into some questions. Really good panel this year. So the first question we have really goes out to Ken and Joe and Kate, and it circles around innovation in the showroom. So the question is, how do you define innovation, and why is innovation so important in our industry today? So Ken, why don't we start with you on that?
Well, I think so much has happened in terms of how people buy products, how they envision, how they dream. And it's really moved away, in many cases, from showrooms or stores being kind of nice-looking stock rooms to really being very interactive, engaging places. And I kind of characterize that it's a lot more focused on the how and a lot less focused on the what. You know, you think of different showrooms. There's an interesting one out in California called Beta, B8, the number 8, and then TA. And they actually have a panel of experts that interview brands and products before they are allowed into the environment. And then the brands and products actually pay for the space and rotate through. So it's a really different approach to curation, or an interesting concept called The Story in New York that closes their showroom 10 times a year for a week. Totally changes the theme. It might be around wellness, or it might be around design, or it might be around cooking. And then they reopen, so they get to reopen their showroom 10 times a year and have a grand opening party. So the whole idea of the how is really what's driving, I think, the ideas of innovation.
Oh, that's great. So what about you, Joe? How do you define innovation? Why is it so important in our industry right now? Joe?
Me, Joe? That's okay, Mike.
I know these guys really well.
I think innovation is incredibly important. You know, right now, especially when you look around the showroom, there are so many choices that we have. Everybody has so many choices and options to choose from. And I think it's innovation that keeps us thinking and keeps us on our toes. It's what makes us want to change our faucet, or change the cabinets, or, you know, get that new toilet, you know, to make doing your deed even more exciting through innovation. So I think innovation, especially for all of the industries, Ken, I love the story example that you talked about, and, you know, the innovation in just the shopping process. how we shop and what we expect from the store experience, and then also the innovation of technology. You know, how is that technology layered into the store experience?
Great, thanks, Joe. And Kate, you know, in your world, how does innovation interact?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Ken and with Joe. I think innovation really circles around the consumer ultimately and what drives them, what they're looking for, and really categorize innovation into two different categories. First, innovation at the end user fingertips. So making life easier for them in their homes via the products that we sell, that we represent, that we specify, and thinking about how innovation can really enhance someone's life, not just innovation for innovation's sake or technology. So I think, you know, that's at the core of innovation. But then to your point, really looking into the process and within the industry, how can we make that process of building, remodeling, designing easier, less overwhelming for that consumer. So innovation within the process isn't always as sexy as some of the cool, you know, design innovations or new product trends, but making that process easier, more digestible, can really be a practical innovation that adds a lot of value for our end user consumers.
Great, and that's a great dovetail into our next question. I mean, we've identified innovation and spoken about why it's important in our industry, but you know, how can innovation be difficult or challenging in our particular channel? And this is really goes out to all five of you. So we'll start with Ken on that.
But you know, I think we all think of innovation as something we do every 7 years after the last time we innovated 7 years before. And I think the world has changed from a standpoint that I was at a conference earlier today. It's an investor conference, and they characterized us living in the disruption economy. You know, you think of Uber and, you know, buying a diamond ring, you know, online and, you know, traveling the other side of the world and staying in somebody's house. And most breakthroughs in industry that have added value, it hasn't been about incremental change, it's been about disruption. And so I think in many ways it's something that becomes part of your culture. Something has to get broken very often in order to move to innovation. And it has to be something that's not a checklist. It's really an attitude, something that you think about every day. I saw a dealer up in New England, and it really struck me. It was innovation in a really funny way. They had taken all the ice makers out of the various premium refrigerators and created an ice bar so that customers could actually see which ice cubes were the best based on their lifestyle, whether they are a Scotch drinker and they wanted the big square clear ones, or they like to make smoothies, so they really wanted small ice cubes. And by doing that, they really disrupted the whole conversation about how somebody looked at the product. And then they also, in that particular case, got the drinker in the house interested, who probably was not interested in picking out a refrigerator before that. And they really disrupted and innovated around the whole process. They started in a very different place. And I thought was a great example of innovation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which I think goes to the idea that innovation doesn't necessarily have to be technological. Innovation can be something as simple as doing something slightly different than the way you've always done it, or slightly differently than the way you've always done it. It was an ice maker that's performing differently. It doesn't necessarily have to be completely disruptive. You know, on the showroom level, it can be changing a display to interact with a client differently. It can be subtle changes as well.
Great. Good, Joe.
I agree with what you're saying, and when you think about innovation, and you mentioned the words difficult and challenging, and it makes me think of a relationship. And when you're in a relationship is difficult and challenging. And when you seek innovation, you're going on a relationship, and it's a journey. So you have to have clear communication about where you want to go on that innovation. And just like in a relationship, when the innovation or the technology breaks, no one is happy, right? And if you leave it broken, that's the end of the relationship. So you have to fix it, and you have to get to the bottom of what. So just to sum up, I feel like innovation can be difficult and challenging, but it's also the key to building a good relationship with your customers.
You know, one other way that I find innovation is sometimes challenging is the basics of our spaces. I mean, the reality of construction and the reality of building codes can really come into play. Very often we'll want to do something in a showroom and it's not necessarily kosher with the local building code. So there's some really simple logistical issues to remember with innovation as well that can really be challenging. And also getting your own stakeholders, getting your own people to engage in something that's new and different to them can also be challenging.
That's great. Gary?
Yeah, innovation, and how many independent designers do we have out there that have showrooms?
Independent designers with showrooms?
Yeah, with showrooms. It's hard for an independent designer to keep up with innovation. This is why partnerships are so important. Partnerships with Ferguson and all the people, Walker Zhang, using their showrooms. We can't all afford to go out and spend $150,000, $200,000 on a new showroom, but we can afford to take our clients to these showrooms. So your locales that you set up are very important to us as designers. And innovation's tough for the independent designer, keeping up with it.
Well,
You build me a showroom for $150,000. I'm sold.
Well, we'll get you a new backsplash.
Joe mentioned a little bit about innovation and being a relationship, and with any relationship, there's some psychology involved with that. So this question actually goes out to you, Joe, and actually Kim as well. Can you give an example of the psychology behind innovative displays or product merchandising? So Joe, we'll start with you.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I think psychology is really a very important part of the shopping process. Getting into the head, knowing who your target customer is, knowing what is important to them. I think what is a great display or a merchandising statement? To me, it's a display or a statement that triggers an emotion, and it makes you feel more than it makes you think or help you decide what you need to do. We're trying to evoke an emotion, and when you can evoke the emotion through a display, then I think you can really engage. Think about for simple shopping for cheese. The experience that you might get at your local Kroger's or Super Value, where you walk up into a cabinet and you see the cheese lined up, compared to when you go to a Whole Foods and you walk into the glorious cheese department, and it just takes over. You feel it, the samples, the tasting, the engaging all of the senses. How do you engage all of those senses? And to me, that's, really key, is evoking the feeling through psychology.
And experience, right?
Absolutely. It's all about the experience.
Kim, how about you?
Well, I think it's very important that displays be interactive and understandable. If a display is so complicated that the end user or your consumer doesn't know how to engage with it, doesn't know how to use it, then it's off-putting. It's got to be inviting. And again, through selling through the senses, you can engage your customer through the 5 senses for enticing them into your environment.
Great. So experiences, engagement. Here we sit now and we think back about the past, right? So what's something in your store that you would not have seen or even thought of 10 years ago? So what's going on that's something revolutionary that you didn't even think would happen 10 years ago? So Kim, we'll start with you. Sorry.
Honestly, I thought about this before. Not a lot, except that we are seeing a lot more visualization software. And visualization software is really becoming more mainstream. And as it does, and it's becoming a lot more affordable, we're going to see it in a greater variety of showroom environments and store environments. It's all about the experience. And if you can create an experience through visualization software or even VR, then I think that we'll see a growth of that. And I think, too, we're going to have to change as the current millennial moms and Henrys, the Henrys that are established now but just about to start making the big bucks and be able to afford some luxury products. They have a different lifestyle and they demand a different experience. And I think our showrooms are going to have to change to meet their needs.
I agree. Ken, what do you think about that? 10 years ago, that something that you never would have thought of happened now.
So many things have progressed, and I think commenting about the visualization hardware and the customer relationship management software and the social media and analytics. In my mind, the big change of realization has been that I think people realize that people ultimately make the difference in the showroom. I think we spent 10 years basically trying to manage and dumb down our employees and our associates. And I think there's an interesting realization right now, given all the things we've done, that you can't replace the humanity or the touch. And so I would have thought people would have been less critical and less important to showroom success. Looking at all these things, and I think today, the realization was that was not a correct assumption. If anything, it's the opposite of that.
That's good input. Gary?
Well, honestly, I never thought I'd see a computer and refrigerator. But the reality of it is the thing that I'm seeing today that I never thought I would see would be the carb too. And the environment. This has become so important in showrooms to show this. I'm getting so many clients in all the different showrooms I work in that are coming in and they're asking for this. Are you environmentally friendly? And I think that's something I don't think any of us thought about. And you can't ignore it anymore.
Great. And so the consumer is more educated than ever, right? I mean, they live in a world where they have access at their fingertips through home design and renovation shows on the television, manufacturers' websites, online catalogs, social media. So, the question to you guys, is this a help or is this a hindrance in the showrooms? And how does that affect the showroom sales rep and the customer relationship, which is really, really the big point. So, Ken, we'll start with you again.
I think it's a blessing and a curse. Is people come in with a sense that they know exactly what they want. They're already knowing what they think they should pay for it, and they think they already know how it's going to get done. And I think the challenge has been is it really requires us to all take a breath and listen. People used to come in with their stacks of magazine tear-outs, and then they came in with their Pinterest pictures, and now they're coming in with manufacturer specifications and drawings. So I think ultimately an educated consumer is a great partner, but it takes a really different set of listening skills and engagement skills on the part of the associate to really say, well, I see what you're showing me, but let's really understand what you want. And sometimes from their experience, they know that that outcome is not actually addressing it. So I think it makes the conversation happen faster, and the conclusion happens faster, but it takes a different set of skills to get there.
Gary, how does the educated consumer react with you?
Well, there's almost information overload. I have clients come in to the various showrooms that I work in, and they're literally almost shaking because I know what I want, but I don't have a clue what I want. And
so
because
walk in shaking.
Yeah, they used to bring in notebooks with scraps, like you were saying. Now they bring in chips with like 32 gigs of pictures, and you're supposed to sort through this. So I agree. It's that showroom person that has to sort this out. So it's an education on the showroom part that really counts the most. Listen to that customer, pay attention, sort through that 32 gig drive, and feed it back to them.
Great. So Kate, in your showrooms, the educated consumer, is that a help, hindrance, and how do you manage them with your staffs?
Well, you know that it's both, for sure. Kind of to Ken's point, the associate has really evolved into a true professional, and I think that educated consumer maybe doesn't know, but really that's what they're looking for, is someone to validate some of their decisions, really bring to life those ideas and influences. And really, I see all of that access to information as a translator, right? Because in the past, a customer would say, oh, I'm modern, and then they'd show me a picture of the most traditional kitchen I've ever seen, right? But now when they come in with all of those pictures and Pinterest boards and things like that, we at least can visualize their end game. So there takes a little bit of deciphering, certainly, and then certainly we have to prove our value as a professional, that we can add value, and that, hey, if you want to do it yourself, there's a means to do that, but that working with a true professional adds value and can help bring that vision to life. So I kind of see it as a translator, if you will.
Well, it's certainly an educated consumer is a challenge on a showroom staff. They have to up their game. They have to be more talented, more educated, but there has to be some kind of new technologies and sales tools that have emerged in the showroom environment. So let's hear about some of those and how they're utilized in your particular location. So Kate, we'll go back to you.
Jump back in. Yeah, well, you brought it up a minute ago. I mean, there's amazing technology available. You know, we are looking at and kind of playing around with everything from augmented reality to virtual reality, the design caves that you see in magazines and things like that. But in my view, it's really those practical enhancements that make working in this industry easier and more approachable for a consumer. So I like some of the work that's been done with some simple technologies, mobilizing a showroom associate with a smart device. So while they're walking around, they have that instant access to information. Again, not the flashiest technology, but a very simple, impactful difference. Having our customers have the ability to make online appointments or do some pre-shopping via the internet or our respective websites can really raise the value of that interaction and kind of bridge the digital and the physical showroom. And I believe that's what today's consumer is looking for.
Great. Kim, how about you?
Got so stressed. What the question was.
I stole all your answers. I'm sorry.
No, basically, she was thinking about stuff about everything
My head
Kate was
just went
saying.
off
So
to other
I'll bring
things.
you back to back.
No.
So what we're talking about is what kind of tools are you using in your
Yeah,
showroom
absolutely.
to help
My head
combat?
was just going in a million different directions. No, I think you're right about, I think we're, again, going back to visualization software is sort of where a lot of it is going. But also, people are coming in far more educated, obviously. But I wanted to bring up a point about that. A point I made earlier before this discussion started, and that is I think we're seeing a little bit of a proliferation of mediocrity. Because people come in with their pictures of a white kitchen with a white subway tile backsplash and a white marble counter, and they say they want something different. They want white subway tile and they want white marble on their counters. So I think that all of the houses and all of the social sites like, and Pinterest are causing so much design proliferation so quickly that design implementation happens rapidly across all spectrums. It used to start out at the top and work its way down. And now it's just sort of blowing through all the strata of different market segments. And I would challenge people in your position to challenge their clients to be more creative, to look at doing things differently, to not want a white subway tile, and to give them the tools to do that. And hopefully with things like visualization software, that'll start happening. They can start visualizing other options in their own space. The advent of tablets within the showroom make it very easy to organically start that conversation with a client when you're looking at a display. I mean, I come from the ceramic tile and the stone world. They're coming from different aspects of the industry, but in my world, when you're working with a client in the showroom, to be able to whip out your tablet and show them what something can look like with a completely different set of materials on it instantaneously, I think is going to be very, very powerful, and hopefully start challenging people to think outside of the white subway tile box.
Ken, that's great. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, a round of applause.
Anybody walks into my showroom and asks for white subway tile and I'm in the room, they're gonna get decked.
Ken, how has the advent of new technology and sales tools emerged in your marketplace?
I think a lot of the folks that are primarily online, Wayfair, I think, is a great example. They're approaching a $10 billion company in, 5 years, 4 years? So they have a lot of money to spend, and they have to figure out technology because they don't have showrooms, at least yet, and they don't have physical product that I can touch and feel. So I think a lot of the innovation is coming out of folks that are selling products that don't have the benefit of touch and feel, but have to figure out some way to create a visual bridge with their customers. And what this is going to do, I think, is because it's very consumer-oriented, the customer is going to be the one asking for the tools. In the past, I think showrooms and vendors and brands, they were pushing the new shiny idea out to the customers. And because of what's happening in the scale of online is that the customer now is going to be asking, well, what do you mean I can't do this in your showroom? Much in the way that they bring their phone in. We tell people all the time that, you know, the biggest investor in your technology budget is your customer, not you, because they update they just bought the $1,400, you know, X last week, and you're still trying to run your business on a iPhone 4 or something. So the customer is driving this, and I think a lot of it is how to engage and embrace the customer's technology and the customer's desire for technology, rather than put yourself in a position to expect to lead it. I think you want to engage it and embrace it and use it in your way, in your environment, because you'll never invest fast enough, I think, on your own to stay ahead of it.
That's a good point. You know, basically saying your customer is your best technology.
Yeah,
because they're
your CIO in many ways.
They are your CIO in many ways. So that's great. Good input there, team. This goes out to Kate and Kim. This next question. So, it's a lot with social media and the digital world going on out there. So, how do you harness all of that to benefit your businesses? So, we'll start with you, Kate.
Great. Well, we love social media, and I am very blessed that we have a team dedicated to it, so I understand that is certainly a luxury, but you know, that's where the customer is, and so we feel that it's our responsibility to be there. Because what we do isn't just sell products, it's hopefully providing thought leadership to the industry, and we want our customers to look to our showrooms for education, for new product trends. Even from this show, you know, we've got folks that are doing Instagram stories and live tweeting, and I'm sure Javon's taking my picture right now and posting it somewhere in social world. But we recognize that's how our customers interact and engage with us, and so we love it and embrace it.
Kim, how about you?
Oh, sorry. We use the various channels, obviously, as well. Our website is there to promote our brand, obviously, and to state the parameters and the brand identity. And we use Pinterest to show our inspirations for our various tile lines. So we're set up to not only show the inspiration behind a line, but also that there are categories for different types of lines and different types of product categories, I should say. And then our, let's see, we have Instagram, and Facebook. And then, of course, we have a presence on Facebook. And our Facebook is actually an opt-in situation so that people are email marketing. I'm getting confused here. This is not my bailiwick in our company. But we have direct email marketing, and our direct email marketing is opt-in. So we have a really high level engagement as a result. And then people look forward to our Facebook feeds because we have Tile Tuesday, and we have Mosaic Monday, and we have Walker Zanger Wednesday, and Slab Saturday, and an inspirational, wonderful montage that's done every Sunday. So there are people that really, really watch our feed on Facebook because it's really quite luscious and beautiful. And our Pinterest boards, I think, are some of the nicest in the industry. They're not necessarily about our product. They're just very beautiful, inspirational images that we turn to for looking for, you know, inspiration and creativity in our tile.
Great. Thank you. Great input. So that leads us to our final question of the day. We kind of spoke where we've gone with showrooms and the showrooms of today and what we've seen transform over the last 10 years. So this final question of the panel is, what's the future for showrooms? What does it hold? Ken, we'll start with you.
I wasn't quite sure who brought it up earlier, but the change from we moved from millennials, which I now understand there's really two kinds of millennials, and half of them hate the other ones, so there's friction in the family. But this Gen Z customer, I think for people in this industry, likes a lot of the things about permanent home, self-expression, even the whole idea of obligation that I might have a house payment. So, but I think how that customer shops, they like things to be where they want to be. So they may want to visit the showroom in a almost like a destination wedding. They may want to have destination showrooms. They may want to look at ways that showrooms are more pop-ups. It may be they're around topics or themes. So I think this Gen Z customer is really going to change a lot. This model, going back to earlier conversation about disruption and innovation, is something, sometimes you have to break something to make it better for the next group. But I think they're going to be a great customer for people in the home space, but they're going to want something different than what we're doing today.
Great. Well, you can count me in on destination showrooms. I'll be first to go. Let's see, Kim, how about you?
They're going to want experiences, that next gen. They want experiences, they want emotions, they want aspirational lifestyles. They're going to break the paradigm for all of us, I think. I have a daughter that is 30 years old and just bought her first house in LA.
Congratulations.
I can't even begin to think what her tax bill looks like, but and yet she has an understanding and an appreciation for goods at a very young age that is very, very different than past generations. And they want more, and they're more knowledgeable, and they're more educated, and they don't want to just walk in the door and buy it. You have to really romance them, and they have to have an experience, and it's got to be a whole immersive experience for them to
She doesn't have
to
subway
buy.
tile in her house, does she?
Probably.
Kate, where do you see the future going in showrooms?
Yeah, this was a question I had to noodle on a little bit because it really could go in any direction. But as we talked about a little bit earlier, I see the physical showroom and the digital showroom kind of merging into one. And that's where I'll echo your comments. I envision showrooms being a little smaller, but more fluid and more personalized, providing that high-touch experience where, no one drives 45 minutes in LA to visit a showroom to do what they could do at home, right? And so having that professional experience, working with someone who can bring their dreams to life, and then expectations are changing as well. Customers expect things quickly, efficiently, and so smaller showrooms allow us to invest in some of the back-end processes to really bring those goods to their home quickly, help them visualize it like you talked about with some of the software that's available, but really kind of be where the customer wants to be, and that's 24/7 online, but then in a very high-touch environment in the showroom, and kind of bridging the two together.
I think they're going to need to be much more fluid. They're going to need to change more frequently.
Great. Well, great. Thank you, panel. This concludes the moderator portion of this program. How about a round of applause for these guys? I think you learned a lot of great stuff. I'm sure they'll be here a little bit later, and actually after the Innovative Showroom Awards, which is up next, so don't go anywhere. There's a cocktail hour, so I'm sure if you have any questions, you want to ask any of the moderators, I'm sure they'll be happy to be around and answer the questions. So thanks, everyone, for attending. Hold your seats, and we'll have the Showroom Awards up next. Thank you.